I also wanted to look at a necessary assumption question. So I've got one for you. It's in the same exam, section 3, number 9. So this is the question with the Tasmanian tiger and the naturalist. Take a moment just to look at the stimulus here, look at conclusion, look at evidence, just evaluate the reasoning for yourself here, and then we'll talk about it a bit. I know it's a little bit tough here. We don't have any indicator words at all. There's not any thus or therefore, but we can look at the relationship between different parts of the stimulus, different parts of the argument. They've got a lot of details in the middle here, and then they say at the end, in spite of alleged sightings, the tiger no longer exists. We also have the first sentence saying the recent claims that it's not extinct are false. So the claim that it is not extinct is false. That's a little bit tricky because it's kind of a double negative. But the final sentence wraps it up a bit more cleanly for us, saying that the Tasmanian tiger no longer exists, meaning it's extinct. So the conclusion, I would summarize it as saying simply, the tiger is extinct. The evidence for this is that there's not really any hard evidence of its survival. Its habitat's been taken over. So because there's no evidence of its survival, the tiger no longer exists. Now, what needs to be the case in order for this argument to work? Well, there are many, many things that we could say are required for us to assume in order for this argument to work. But I think the biggest thing that stands out to me when looking at this argument is simply that it's kind of like an absence of evidence flaw. They're saying, we don't see the tiger anywhere. We have no evidence of it. Therefore, it's gone. They're failing to consider that maybe the scientific tools they have to spot the tiger are not good enough. And I guess one of the biggest things, which the correct answer actually touches on a little bit here, is that maybe the tiger is no longer in its natural habitat. It's no longer where we are looking for it. So they are failing to consider that maybe the tiger is somewhere else than it previously was. And there is an answer choice that touches on this a little bit. Did anybody happen to spot what the correct answer might be? Any thoughts on that? Awesome. Yeah, so I see Brittany saying D. Yes, it is exactly D. Perfect. So maybe the tiger moved somewhere else. That is an alternative possibility. It's an alternative explanation for the idea that the tiger is simply extinct because we don't see it anymore. And so D is dismissing this alternative possibility that perhaps the tiger just moved somewhere else in reaction to the sheep farming and the elimination of its natural habitat. Maybe it found a new habitat. So this is something, choice D is something that needs to be the case in order for the argument to work, meaning that if it were not the case, the conclusion would fall apart given the evidence. So maybe if we negate D, we could say the tiger did move and adapt to a different region. And if it did, and our alternative possibility is correct, then it would destroy the conclusion that the tiger no longer exists. So I hope that helped to illustrate the difference here a little bit. I think that for D, we want to view it as being necessary and inherent within the argument itself. If we assume the conclusion is true that the tiger is extinct, then D should not be viewed as new information. And notice that D is rather moderate since it is limited to the tiger in particular.